to The Real Heal, a show featuring real, raw, and authentic conversations between experts in the holistic health space. This is your chance to be a fly on the wall, listening to a 100% organic, unscripted chat about topics in the holistic health world that most aren't even talking about. And believe me, we are holding nothing back. I am your host, Dr. Renee Wallenstein, also known as the Libidoologist, double board certified doc, entrepreneur, as well as healthcare disruptor. I have navigated the traditional world of medicine in overcoming my own personal health obstacles, and I had to take matters into my own hands when the system was failing me. Now, I'm shaking things up and sharing my message while collaborating with other experts in my holistic health community to bring you answers to your burning questions about not only getting well naturally, but sustaining that newfound good health. Each week, I will bring you an expert guest, and we will address not only the physical components of optimal health, but also the mental and spiritual influences that will set you up for a long life of limitless energy, self-confidence, and joy so you can get the real heal for good. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Before we get into the episode, I just want to remind you that the opinions expressed on The Real Heal are my opinions and those of my guests. And they're published for educational and informational purposes only. They're not intended as a diagnosis, treatment, or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment. So please do me a huge favor and consult your own personal doc or healthcare professional for your own specific health or medical needs or concerns. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into the show. I am so excited to welcome Dr. Shiroko to the show. And, you know, when I actually found out about your book and what you do and like all your knowledge-based, you know, education and all the things and how you integrate them all and who you help, I was like, she needs to be on the show. So I welcome you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to meet you. Yeah.
And of course, everyone heard in the bio, like all of your, you know, accolades as far as your certifications, but, and we're going to really, I think today dive into the principles in your book, but we'll get there in a second. First and foremost, I want to know, the audience wants to know, how did you get doing what you're doing today?
Well, it's a long journey. But it all really started when I was 5 years old. And I'm not going to tell you my whole life story, so don't worry. But when I was 5 years old, my great-grandmother was my very best friend. And she was the person who took care of me because my mom was a single mom and she was working all the time. And my grandma didn't like kids. So my great-grandma was that person. And one night she collapsed in front of me and I couldn't wake her up. And I found out a few days later, they took her to the hospital, and I found out a few days later that she had died, which I didn't know quite what that meant because my mom said her heart stopped beating. And of course I was devastated and I couldn't imagine what that meant, but immediately, so like as soon as my mom said, I'm never going to see her again. And I immediately started thinking, what could I do to make her heart start beating? And so I imagined her heart start beating and tried to imagine a machine that would do that. And I feel like my whole life since then has been dedicated to figuring out how to solve problems and how to create miracles. Because, and it was basically that day that I decided to be a doctor. And, you know, I kind of followed that track all the way to medical school many years later. And the first time I got to save a life was when I was in the emergency room and a patient with a gunshot wound was brought in. And so, of course, I was like, oh my God, we got to save a life. So I went to surgery because that was the first time I got to save a life. And so I was like, okay, I get to save lives here. And then in surgical residency, I began to realize that there was more to life. And I hit my own sort of midlife crisis at age 27 and began to question things on a more deep level. And so the deeper I questioned, it was always looking for what will make someone feel better now. What will make somebody better this minute, And so in my surgical residency, at one point, I took a month off, and I had a dream that if I stayed in surgery, I would die. And I didn't know what to do about that, except like, whoa, okay. But I didn't know what other specialty I wanted to do in medicine, because I wanted that intervention sort of thing. And then somebody gave me this book on Chinese medicine and on acupuncture, and I started to read it and literally fell in love. And I've been in love with Chinese medicine ever since. It has been more than 30 years. And so I was like, I got to learn what this is about, because with acupuncture, with Chinese medicine, there's a whole different approach and a whole different way of looking at things. And that approach appealed to me so much because it had to do with resolving problems, helping people get balance, finding that way that they can find that balance. And so over the years, I've just continued, like I went to acupuncture school, and then I had this dream to open a medical center that incorporated all of the best of, Western medicine, Chinese medicine. And then along came functional medicine, and functional medicine fits with Chinese medicine so perfectly, because it's also about balance and systems and finding answers that help someone feel better, finding those root causes. So those things just kind of have evolved over the years in my desire to help people feel better.
I love that. And you were, before a lot of us that get into functional medicine, or like asking the why, like there has to be more. I think many of us get into this field because of our own personal health struggles. And yours kind of was a little different in that grandma really started that why, how. And you had that revelation a lot earlier than most of us do. So congratulations to that, because I think a lot of us are like, whoa, where has this been my whole life? And unfortunately, we've had to find it because of our own health. And, because you were on the cutting edge right in the beginning and figuring out how this all goes together. I mean, that's just amazing. So, and I have to say, I just got your book and I just started listening to it, and I heard the story about your Oma, and my heart broke for that little 5-year-old, but here you are today to tell the story, and look what she'd be so proud to see how far you've come, and that her life and her situation actually impacted you so much that you are changing hundreds and thousands of people's lives. And I'm sure more with your book. So
thank you. Yeah.
What a great tribute to her. Let's circle around and just start with your book, because like we said before I hit the record, like there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I really want to get into your book, because I think this will help so many people. Because what you do is you help people that really, nobody else wants to help. No other doctor wants to help. Those people that are struggling with these quote unquote mysterious illnesses, like all their labs are normal, but they know something's still wrong. And, maybe they've even seen a traditional functional medicine doc and started the lifestyle changes and the supplements, and they still don't feel good. And then you get them, but you can't work with everybody. So you have a book, and your book is Healing When It Seems Impossible: 7 Keys to Defy the Odds. And again, I'm so excited to binge on this book all weekend, because I think I'm going to have it finished in no time, but I thought we could go through perhaps the 7 keys and maybe give the audience, go through them, and maybe a tip or two on how they can implement right away after listening to this episode, one little thing with each of the keys.
Sure. Absolutely. I love sharing that.
And you can share more than one tip. I just don't know how much time we're going to have. I would keep you here all day if I could, but I know you have patients to go see. So
yeah.
the audience can go buy the book after this episode. Like I did. Actually, I got it before, but I think this is going to be super impactful. So go for it.
All right. So good. So there's 7 keys to defy the odds. And the first key is love. And a lot of people are surprised by that, because what does love have to do with healing? And in my world, love is the most powerful healing force in existence. It is what this planet is made of. It is the deepest energy that you can access. And in the people that I see, and so many people who have struggled with health issues, love is missing, because they hate their bodies. They're angry. They feel betrayed. They feel upset that their bodies are behaving like this. And so the first place to start is to start thinking, well, what if your body was your best friend? And this is my tip for you, is if your body is your best friend, what would it be wanting for you? It would want you to feel well. It will want something for you, right? So if you are struggling with a health issue that you don't understand or that nobody understands, start first from that question. If my body was my best friend, then it would be trying to tell me something. It wouldn't be telling me I'm stupid or I'm betraying you or whatever. It's trying to tell you something. And I also think about it like this, like a lot of times when our bodies are talking to us in a way that we don't understand, it's because it's like a little kid, a little baby who's crying and you don't know why your baby's crying, or a puppy or a kitten, that something you love so much that you would do anything for it, right? And we often treat our pets better than we treat ourselves, and of course we treat our children better than we treat ourselves. But think about it like that. Well, what if your body was that little baby? And what would you do for it in order to figure out how to solve the problem? So that's the first key. And there are many elements in each chapter, and there are many suggestions for what to do for yourself in each chapter. So, and there's even a workbook. So if you decide you want to read the book, then there's also a free workbook if you access the links that are here.
Excellent. And can we access that book if we get the Audible as well, the workbook?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to pause for interrupt for 1 second, because I'm so excited to hear the others, but this speaks to me so much. And, it's interesting. You came in onto the show because I reached out, I think, a little bit ago, but I feel like you came on for me to speak to me, because I'm actually not loving my body lately. And I've been speaking very harshly to it because I need surgery in a month to, for a condition I've had for 10 years. And I'm frustrated that it's not working the way it used to work. And this body, like I wish. And so, like you said, I've now sort of pivoted a couple of weeks ago, realizing that that's not helping my healing, to say, it does want to feel better. I just started feeding it with even better foods and like a little more slowing down, a little more grace, and all of the things that a lot of us women tend to shy away from. Because when it doesn't function the way we want it to, or look the way we want it to, we are so critical of ourselves and shame ourselves day in and day out about something about our body. So I think that was an excellent way to start the show. So key one, check, love that.
Yeah. The other thing to remember about love is there's a hormone dedicated to love called oxytocin. And when you put your energy in the direction of love, you build oxytocin, and oxytocin is a powerful, positive healing force. So just another little subtle hint about love.
Now, in that love, do you speak about like with others, or just pretty much self-love?
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
One of the things about love is it's like whatever you do with love comes back to you. Mm-hmm. So if you put love towards another person, because you can't even begin to think about loving yourself for a minute, if you give love to another person, or a puppy or a kitten or whatever, or a little kid, anything you put love towards, even your houseplants, because I have some houseplants that need love, it comes back to you. It makes you feel better. So it's like a boomerang. So like you can start anywhere with love,
So good. We could stay in love all day, but
we could. It's one of my favorite subjects. So
I know. And that was a great first key, because I think that's like, a lot the basis for everything in life. So I love that. So what's the second key?
The second key is based on my experience with Chinese medicine, functional medicine, and Western medicine all together, all these years. I started Chinese medicine relatively early in my training as a physician, so they kind of blended with each other. And the cool thing in Chinese medicine is that you're made up of energy, and energy travels through your body in certain patterns. And when your energy's out of balance, there are problems. So the whole picture is that if there are certain foundational things that are in place, then your body will heal no matter what. And that's where I operate from. And so what I call that is the triangle of wellness. And what it consists of is your hormones, your nervous system, and your immune system. And so the second key is about finding physical balance and paying attention to those three elements. So even if you don't know what's wrong with you, you can heal by getting those systems in balance. And there are, of course, again, many other elements to that chapter because it's about physical balance. So it's about, getting certain things in place. And that's where I have operated from. That chapter is probably my career, so what I do with people, how I work with people, how I solve problems. And the other thing in the book is that there's many stories of people so that you get concrete examples of how that works. So, and then I don't want to keep you too long, so I'm going to move on to the third key. And the third and the fourth key kind of interchange amongst one another. So the third key is finding your own unique lifestyle. And this is where, there's a million diet books. There's probably more than a million diet books. There's a million ways to exercise. And as we change in our lives, those things change. And there's so many elements to our lifestyle that we play around with and we discover. And much as my driving force was this desire to create miracles, I've also had my own health issues. So I played with every possible diet. I've played with every possible way of exercising to find things that work for me. So I have a lot of experience in all of that area. And what I suggest is, starting with some kind of lifestyle. And then the fourth key is learning to listen to your body. And they're all my favorite, but this is maybe one of my favorites because in Chinese medicine, how the organs work is different than how they work in Western medicine, but you can use how they work to understand your own body. And so listening to your body in chapter 4 is using the information. For example, I'll think of, so your lungs. Your lungs in Chinese medicine regulate your nose, your throat, your physical lungs, your skin, your large intestine, and the ability to protect yourself from things that come in from outside. So that means your immune system. So all of that is incorporated in one energy pathway, or in actually two, lungs and large intestine. They also rule the emotion of grief. Every organ has a physical function and an emotional function and spiritual functions. So knowing that, so if you had a runny nose all the time, you'd go, there's something going on with my immune system, right? And a lot of us have learned that over the years anyway. But then you can think, what can I do that would be good for my lungs? So that's where you go back to lifestyle and you go, are there foods? Are there exercises I can do? Are there things, can I deal with grief in a way that would help me balance that system? And so that's how you can use those two chapters. It's like learning to listen to your body, learning to apply your own lifestyle. What exercises can you do? Can you do breathing exercises? So it can kind of go back and forth. And I feel like learning about bodies is fun and an adventure. And so I want to bring that to the healing journey, even when you're challenged.
I love that.
Like if you think about it as an adventure, and in one of the first introductory chapters, I talk about the hero's journey. If you approach learning about your healing as an adventure, it's so much easier,
Yeah. And, you embrace the process. Like, I think we're all in that society, and Western medicine has kind of done this, is like the pill for every ill and the quick fix. Right. And, a lot of times I'm sure you and I both see the people that have either failed the pill, maybe don't want the pill, which I'm seeing more and more of that, or, they're willing to, they don't want to stay on the pill forever, and they're willing to do the work to figure out like deeper down what's going on. And I just love, because I'm just like you, I've tried every diet and every exercise just to see, like, try it on for fit, like see what fits. And I do find also, I was thinking as you were talking, there might be different ways of exercise and nutrition for different seasons of life. I'm currently in a different season, and in 6 months I'll be in a different season. So like, I'm trying, like you said, to listen to my body, say, okay, what do you need? What feels, and then the feedback of when you do something, eat a food or exercise. And I know I can't wait to read your book more to get like the specifics.
Mhm.
But, and then the response of your body is like, does that work? Does it not work? How does it feel?
Mhm.
Whether or not you should proceed and continue to do it. And so I think, you know, as listening to you, you're empowering people to just do what feels good to their body. And that also empowers them to be present in their body, to feel what it feels like eating the certain foods and the exercising and all the things. So I love those two. Like so far, I love all of the keys. So I can't even pick my favorite yet.
Thank you.
So it's just so powerful and so
Yeah.
empowering, you know,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to get all the little nuances and hear the stories, because I think when you add the stories, a lot of us can see ourselves in maybe this person and a little bit of this person and what they tried and what worked, and maybe, you know, give your readers something to try themselves. So yay.
Yeah.
So gosh,
Cool.
what are we on 5 now? Key
We're
5.
on 5. Yeah. So 5 is emotions, and how emotions play a role in our physicality. And again, in Chinese medicine, each organ has a specific emotional component. And so, for, like I said, the lungs rule the emotion of grief, and the kidneys rule the emotion of fear. The heart rules the emotion of joy. But joy can become something that's extreme, where a person can become manic. So in Chinese medicine, it's not just the emotion of joy, which is such a wonderful thing to have, but also that mania, that going over the edge when you have too much joy. The liver rules the emotion of anger. And every organ has an emotional function. Every organ has a spiritual function. And by understanding that, and one of my big learnings as I progressed in my training and my experience with people is that when there's something that's extremely difficult, and the Chinese say this, is the Chinese medicine culture says this, your diseases come from either outside your body or inside. And outside is always, you know, it's 5,000 years old. So we talked about the weather, the wind, the dampness, the rain, those kinds of things affect our bodies. So those are all infections. But what brings it inside our bodies is some break in the system, something that breaks the system down. And that's usually an emotion or a trauma or something that triggered that event. And so you want to take that into account. And I have a story that I tell a lot about a firefighter, because he was this macho guy who had no problems. He just had a sore knee, and he didn't want to have surgery because he didn't want to have to deal with that. So he came to me, and I kept giving him acupuncture, and he wasn't getting better. And it was a simple problem, and I'm an expert on knees. So I was like, well, if it's a simple problem and you're not getting better, something's wrong, right? So I kept asking him about stress and about emotional stuff. He goes, oh, no, I'm fine. You know, he's a firefighter. He had to be fine, right? No problems, no traumas. I love my job. My wife and kids are good, blah, blah, blah. Finally, one day he came in and he said to me, oh, yeah. He goes, I met with my dad today. And I said, oh, what's going on with your dad? And he goes, oh, my dad's an alcoholic. And so I talked to him about that. I talked to him about childhood things that might affect the body. And, you know, it goes into too much depth for this thing, but I talked to him about how that might impact his health. And he started to listen. And he was like, that's interesting. And so he went and looked into adult children of alcoholics, and he started reading books about being a child of an alcoholic, and his knees started to get better because it was connected to that tribal relationship, that family relationship. The legs represent your first chakra, which has to do with your tribe and your family. And so he started to deal with it, and his knees started to respond to the acupuncture.
Wow.
And that's just one of hundreds of stories of like where something goes so deep, and you may not know that whatever threw you over the edge, you know, so like it may have been an infection that throws you over the edge, but something allowed that infection to come in. What was that? You know, so that's what the emotional chapter is about. And then the 6th chapter is called, I can't remember what it's called. That's terrible.
No.
The principle is never give up. So whenever we have a challenge, in our lives. If we have a challenge with another person, or we have a challenge in our job, we know that there's a reason for it. We've been conditioned for over the years to recognize that person is difficult. There's a reason for that. That job is a challenge. There's a reason for that. I got to work at it to make it better, right? We don't think about our bodies necessarily in that way. We expect our bodies to be like a really good running car. Just do your job, leave me alone. Don't bug me, right? But our bodies are the house where our spirit lives. And when we have a challenge, it is the most personal, deep journey that we are sent on. If it's a mystery illness, or if it's a terrible diagnosis like an autoimmune disease or cancer or something like that, we are being sent on a journey to discover how to get well. And so in the 6th chapter, I talk about that despair, that difficulty, and what it takes to not give up. Because there's a reason you're going on this journey. And so many people that I know, like you were saying at the beginning, so many people who are amazing healers that I know went on a journey of their own, a health journey, to get where they are today, to help other people, and so when I look at all of my clients as people who are on a journey to discover their own healing and how to get to the place where they can help others.
I love that. Yeah. Chapter 6. I'm sorry. I was trying to find it in the book. Yeah. Never give up, patience and persistence. So I was trying. I was like, oh, let me find it for you. Oh, I love that. I do love that. And, again, it's just about like the day you decide to take control of your health is really an exciting day. Like I'm getting excited just listening to you of like, this is, yes, a journey, but I think so many times they come into this, oh, it could take a year, 2 years or more. They're thinking, oh, like I have to feel like this for that much longer. And no, like every day, every minute, every hour, every day, you feel a little bit better, which a lot of times keeps you going. So I think it's just the way you're addressing it. It feels more exciting than daunting to me.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. That's the goal, is to treat it like an adventure and a journey that you're on. And it's so much more helpful.
Yeah.
And then the 7th key is to trust the process. And that's also hard to do, because if you've been to 8 doctors and you've seen so many people and they say you're crazy, or they say, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just getting old. Oh, we love that one. No, you're not just getting old. And yes, there is something to do, and trust the process, because even that frustration of seeing 8 doctors who haven't given you answers has brought you to where you are today. And that is a part of that journey, and a part of that learning that we have to go through. And there are so many things that we don't understand about our souls, about our beings, and whatever journey we're sent on, if it's in life where we have difficult experiences in life with our parents or with our families or friends or whatever, or in our bodies where we have difficult experiences in our bodies, trust that. Trust that there's a reason for it. And there's this word called surrender, which is very, very difficult when you feel bad to consider surrendering. It's like on the one level, trusting that life is taking you on a journey, never giving up, and at the same time being surrendered to whatever is happening. So it's like, so that whole chapter explains all of that. And so one thing that I can say about that is, because I was supposed to give a hint for each chapter.
It's okay.
So I'm trying to think, like, what can I give you as a hint? So for that idea, just think about it like this, just start to think differently. So for every one of these chapters, the key is really a new way of looking at things. One, to think about it as an adventure, and never give up on yourself, never, keep looking for those people who can help you and for the things that will help you feel better. And in the trusting the process, don't be angry at all the things that have already gone before. Just accept that whatever has happened is a part of your adventure, your experience that will lead you to where you need to go. And some of those times may not be fun.
totally resonate with that. You know, I broke my back. I have my 10-year anniversary coming up this month. And, you know, I have to say I would not be in functional medicine if it had not been for that. I would still be an OBGYN practicing conventionally.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have to say for about a year and a half after my injury, I went through what I now reflect on as the grieving process. I was grieving,
Mhm.
went through all of the stages. And, you know, I was that victim for the longest time until I did two things. You know, changed my lifestyle. I actually went, you know, found functional medicine, number one. And number two, I incorporated acupuncture.
Mhm.
And, you know, the two of those together were just life-saving for me because I was one of those people that I knew I needed help when I talked to my husband. I said, I can't go on living like this. Like I actually thought about no longer living. And I
Mhm.
had two young children sleeping in the rooms down the hall. And that's when I knew that I just needed to do something different because I too wasn't getting the answers from the conventional docs. And not to say anything negative, they just didn't know what else to do with me. So I was hopeless, helpless. Like there was nothing more. So it was hard for me to surrender and trust the process. But I think my aha was when I had a doc actually listen to me. And I hate to say it, but she validated my symptoms. Like it wasn't all in my head. There was really, you know, after going to all the doctors saying everything's normal, there's nothing more we can do. I'm like, there is something going on. And, you know, to see this doc and say, yeah, there is something going on with a different organ that conventional docs don't look at in this way. It was the adrenals, but
Mhm.
she gave me my life back just by telling me that it wasn't all in my head, that there is something. It's going to be a process. It's going to take some time. But at that point, I was so rock bottom that I was ready to just do whatever I had to do and give it however long it was going to take to feel better. And
Yeah.
I credit to this day, functional medicine, that the whole concept of, you know, getting to the root cause and lifestyle changes, strategically supplementing, but then the Chinese medicine was a huge component of my healing because I had gone through everything, you know, chiropractic, which I do believe chiropractic care is very important as well. But for me, what
Mhm.
changed my life was Chinese medicine and functional medicine, which is exactly what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that. And honestly, after talking to you, I just want to go and I might just pack up the computer for the day, just go listen to your book all day.
Well, thank you. I'm honored that you want to. Yeah.
And I honestly think everyone listening to this episode is going to hop off because I don't care if you're dealing with a chronic illness or like some symptoms that aren't explained, whatever the case may be, just life in general. I think in maintaining good health, I think your book would be super helpful. Like, even if you don't want to get sick, you don't want to get sick, read her book. If you're already sick, read her book. Just get her book. So your book is available is it Amazon? Just Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Audible. I think I saw paperback. I'm an Audible listener when I drive, when I take my dog for a walk. So I immediately got the Audible and
Mhm.
putting my makeup on, was listening to it. And I was just like, I don't want to stop. Oh, but I have to go talk to her. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And, you know, I know I'm going to end on one last question, and then we're going to circle back to kind of find out where you hang out and how you work with
Mhm.
people. But what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew 5, 10, 15, even 20 years ago?
Well,
There's a lot, I know.
the thing about age is that you get some wisdom, but
Yes.
I think the thing that I know now is the power of a good attitude, you know, of changing our attitudes. And I've had to fight because I grew up in a crazy family, and I went through a crazy divorce about 10 years ago, and my tendency was to think towards the negative.
Mm.
And I really had to fight to take myself to thinking positive. And what I, you know, in birthing this book, because it took me years to write, but the main magic is really recognizing the power of love and the power of really focusing on it's not to ignore the negative, because when you feel crummy, you don't ignore it, you go with it, but to believe in your healing, to believe in miracles, and for myself as well, because the healing when it seems impossible happened for me too, you know, like it maybe in a different circumstance, but there are so many times when you feel hopeless and feel like it's impossible. And at that moment, the saving grace is nothing's impossible.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
so powerful. And,
Yeah.
anyone could do it.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it. That's the beauty of it. It's not, you don't need us, like you can do it yourself. And
Yeah.
I love how you just recognize that, the feelings, you have to feel the feelings, but try not to stay in those feelings. Like, and that's what biggest thing I did in 2021 is starting to feel the feelings. Again, we're trained as docs, like you put your emotions under the carpet, you just keep moving on. You don't even think about it, you just keep moving.
Yeah.
And I gave myself permission last year to start crying when I felt like crying, screaming into a pillow when I wanted to scream, just literally dropping everything, going for a walk when I just needed to cool down, think, whatever. It has been life-changing. Like, I don't carry those emotions with me. I move through them as quickly as in 90 seconds. And when I get to the other side, I can actually process them and like, okay, it's much clearer now, like what I'm going to do or how I'm going to react or what have you. So it's been very empowering for me to actually give myself permission to feel the feelings, and then I don't stay in them. I think that's why I was stuck for so long, 8, 9, 10 years ago, because I wasn't allowing myself to feel the feelings. Like I was kind of feeling them, then I'm suppressing, feeling and suppressing. And until I gave myself permission to really, truly started feeling in the moments, things come and go a lot quicker for me.
And it does go remarkably, like, and I always use a baby as an example of this. Like when a baby gets upset about something, they just scream, right? But if you really watch them when they're screaming, there's certain things that are happening. They're moving their bodies, they're breathing a certain way, they're going through a whole bunch of stuff. And it's usually like, if we figure out what the source of the problem is, they stop screaming pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it passes just like that. And it's the same for us. If we give ourselves a chance to feel that feeling, it passes.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some nights it's lasted. I had to go sleep on it, and then the next day I felt better. But I think as women, especially being in medicine, I was pretty much taught if I cry, I show weakness. I show maybe I'm emotional or hormonal, and I don't want to be called those names. So I am just going to be stoic and just keep moving on. And I've carried that with me for, I've been in medicine over 20 years now. Like I've carried that with me. But last year, because of what I represent in the health space now, of like really embracing being a woman and having those emotions, and it's okay. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It now means I move through things a lot quicker and I can move on. And like, it actually makes me a lot stronger than in the past. So how do you actually work with patients and or clients? Is it just one-on-one in the like in an office, or are you online?
Well, I still have a one-on-one practice in Santa Rosa, California, so Northern California. And I do acupuncture there and see patients one-on-one. But I also have an online telemedicine practice and a program that I'm using to help people through the same concepts as the book. So a 9-week program that I'm working with to help people. So 2 options, or 3, really. You can also do one-on-one telemedicine.
Okay.
So yeah.
Lots of options. And can you work with anyone in any state? Excellent. So you're probably going to get lots of messages after this episode.
I just want to address the surgeon aspect, because you said you're an OBGYN and I was a surgery resident for 2 years, and I understand where you're coming from. I just wanted to say, because I remember, like, if you have an emotion that, oh my God. Yeah.
And it's so interesting how it's so ingrained in you. Like they don't say it, but they say it, like you just are just conditioned to so first day of residency is like shut down all emotions. And then again, I just carry that with me. And, like you were saying before, like with the breaking of my back, would I love a back that's actually functional to this day? Yeah. But you know what, that situation, there's a reason things happen. Right. And like in the moment, it was like, oh, why me? Looking back, I'm like, well, I'd love a back that's a little bit better, but I wouldn't be here today talking to you, doing what I do, if it weren't for that situation in my life. So always grateful for the pivots and the lessons learned. And, if you're in a tough situation now, or illness or what have you, like, just know there's healing on the other side, but it's teaching you something. There's a reason for it. You may not know it now, but you will a day, a week, a month,
Yeah.
couple years, maybe 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where do you like to hang out in the online space? Where is your favorite place? Is it on social media, or is it website, or do you not have time to hang out?
Hang out. What is that? Well, I mean, I have I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
For my business. So Heart to
Yep.
Heart Medical Center
Okay.
is my business. And if you type in Heart to Heart Medical Center, and it's there, that name is for a reason. And it's about, love and that connection. So what I believe strongly, that when somebody guides you on your healing journey, that connection is important for so many reasons, like feeling that connection, having my heart involved with your heart, taking you on a journey is going to help you. And so that's where I come from. And so you can find my webpage, your Facebook page, or Dr. Shiroko on Instagram or Twitter.
Perfect.
So yeah, any of those.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to come find you on Instagram right now when we get off, but thank you so much for being here. This was so insightful. This was so, it's exciting. It's exciting to view healing the way you view it. And thank you for doing what you do, because you are truly changing this world. And thank you for your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing what you do, and that life called you in the way that it did. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Real Heal and that you learned something new. And before you go, can you do me a quick favor? Take a screenshot right now and share it to Instagram and tag me so I can celebrate you for taking action and improving your health. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please take a minute to leave me a rating and a quick review. This will help others just like you find the show. And do not forget to subscribe, because you will not want to miss out on any of the amazing guest experts that I have coming up very soon. And remember, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. Do one thing today that makes you happy and learn to love life again. And with that, I'm out of here. Talk to you again soon.